We are going from Florida to California today, a state that was very popular in my early recording, but I don't get as many entrepreneurs coming on of late to that entrepreneur show. So, Jordan Berry, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me on. It's probably because it's so hard to do business over here. We just do not make it easy that we're all leaving to other places probably. So
Yeah, I've been reading a bit about that. Californians, I guess you would call them, going other places, while here in Florida, people are coming. They continue to come and come, and it's hard to remember the time before COVID when it was a cheaper place to live and a much different vibe out here. But Tampa is up to big things, as of course California is always. Our guest is up to a lot of great work today. I'm going to have you jump into your journey, Jordan. Where would you like to start?
I guess we could start with the pain. bring
I like
it's
that.
always fun to yeah, always fun to start with the pain. So I'm in the laundromat space. That's kind of where I'm living right now. A little weird. Never really anticipated being in this space, but that's where I'm at. But I started off as a pastor. I was a pastor for almost 15 years.
Okay.
And when I transitioned out of that to to laundromats, well, before I knew I was transitioning to laundromats, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, post ministry. And so my idea I thought was great, which was, hey, let me go buy a condo on the beach in Hawaii. We can rent out our house here in California. And if we ever want to come back, we can come back and we'll have a condo on the beach in Hawaii and a house in California. I thought it was a great idea. My wife, on the other hand, said we could do that, or we could buy a laundromat. So that's how I ended up in the laundromat space.
Wow, so the ultimatum, happy wife, happy life. He says, I'm going to Hawaii. She says, let's not move that fast. I think that's awesome. Where in Hawaii were you looking to go?
I don't think it really mattered that much. Probably Maui or Oahu, somewhere with sweet beaches and warm weather.
All right, well then I'm gonna backtrack to the route you did take. We're gonna go down the laundromat space. There's always time for Hawaii. I'm sure you'll get there at some point. But what would you say the hardest barrier to entry when you started this laundromat business? You're my first laundromat entrepreneur on the show, and I'm very happy about that because I really do try hard to find every industry, every field, so I can bring that unique story here. Walk us through that a little bit.
So I bought my first laundromat almost a decade ago now, and I mean, honestly, the biggest barrier to entry was the lack of information at that point in time. Like there
Right,
just
right.
really wasn't anything out there in terms of like how to acquire a laundromat, how to value it, how to run it. That stuff just wasn't there, and so that led to many mistakes by me and very expensive mistakes, which I'm sure we can chat about if you want to.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the big obstacles getting into it. And then, kind of traditionally, it can be a little bit capital heavy getting into this business. And so that's another sort of barrier to entry for a lot of people.
Now, typically, do you reach a contract with a manufacturer of washer and dryers? Do you buy these outright? Do you lease them? Just walk that process through us.
Yeah. So typically you're going to buy an existing one from another owner.
Okay.
And then you're probably going to purchase equipment from a distributor manufacturer. So you're typically going to purchase a business and the equipment.
Okay.
You may purchase the real estate space also. But by and large, most of the time you're leasing the real estate space.
Nice. Thank you for teaching me something. That's what I love about this show. Every guest that comes on, I'm going to learn quite a bit. Do you see yourself expanding of franchising next laundromat into a new world? Because you mentioned you were 15 years as a pastor, jumping into entrepreneurship. I'd love to pick your brain a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. So this, I mean, when I started this journey, I knew nothing about pretty much anything really. Let's just be honest. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about real estate investing. I didn't know anything about stock investing. I didn't know anything about anything really. at that point in time. And so, like I said, that led to a lot of expensive, we'll call them lessons, that I learned along the way. And part of that is learning that your portfolio can and probably should evolve along the way, right? So you're catching me at a really unique point in my journey in this space, because I've actually sold most of my laundromats, and but with the intent of actually building a large portfolio of laundromats. So that's sort of the goal,
Awesome.
is to go big in the space.
I love that. Well, are we talking big, taking over California? Are you looking to California and Hawaii? What are we thinking?
Yeah. I got to snag at least one in Hawaii there. That way I can expense all my travels over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have an excuse to go to Hawaii then. I love the ambition and congratulations on the transition. When was your last day in ministry?
That was in 2014.
2014. So
Yeah.
over about 10 years now, you've created this laundromat empire. Now you're buying and selling, acquiring to bigger. I'm very glad that I came across your story. What is one piece of advice you'd offer to anyone out here who is looking to just get in a new space? They've got a couple ideas in their head, but they have the itty bitty committee in their head saying, I don't know anything, but you're over here saying, so what? It's all
Yeah.
good. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to be like, because I do a lot of consulting in this space too, and I hear a lot, and I'm sure you've probably heard this from a lot of people too, and just in business in general, which is like, hey, I've been thinking about buying a business forever, for a decade or for years or whatever. And I used to be like, man, well, why haven't you? Like, what? Like, I don't even want to hear from you anymore, because if you're not going to actually go do it, but I actually have a lot of empathy
Right.
for that. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that. And in my story, I ended up losing a ton of money early on until I kind of figured things out. And it wasn't just the money. I mean, the money hurt, to lose all the money, but there was just like a lot of emotional damage done also, through that process. And a lot of times growth, you experience some of that. But here's what I would say though, right? So number one, I see a lot of people get stuck in the learning, right? You get the dopamine hit when you learn something new and it's exciting and you're like, I learned it. And then you never do anything with it. So you just get stuck in this perpetual learning cycle.
Been there.
Or number two, people really want to like take that next step, but just can't. Like, they can't get over the hump, right? To take that next step. It's just the fear really stops them. And what I hear, my best piece of advice is to borrow somebody else's courage, right? So, and what I mean by that is
I like that.
find somebody else who has done what you're trying to do and borrow their courage until you can get your own, right? Learn from them, because you can listen to a podcast and you're here listening to this podcast, right? So you're here to learn, and you can learn a lot that way, but you can't learn everything you need to know until you actually start doing, or until you borrow those lessons from somebody else who has already done. And so my biggest piece of advice, if you're stuck in that learning cycle or you're stuck in that fear, is borrow somebody else's courage and get to take an action with them alongside you. It's going to save you a ton of money. It's going to save you a lot of headache, and that emotional damage, some of it at least.
It's really great advice. It's something I admittedly have slacked with over the years, where you always want to do it your way and you want to do it, and you're an entrepreneur, so you're stubborn, you're doing all these things, but there are other people who have done what you're trying to do and you can model and learn. Now that I'm pivoting more into the coaching space from just school speaking, there are a lot of other podcast book coaches out there, and I've started to take notes and lessons a little bit along the way. It's another great advice here. Before I let you go here, I want to ask, not only where can we find your contact information, but where exactly are your existing laundromats? So if anybody's listening on in the California area, they can come check you out.
Yeah. Well, my laundromats are in the roughest of rough neighborhoods. So I'm in South Central LA and East LA there. So that is feel free to come on by and check them out. But I mean, honestly, most rough neighborhoods, are are great neighborhoods with a few rough people in them. Right. And so, yeah. So anyways, yeah, I'm in LA area, right in the heart of South Central LA. There. So feel free to come on by. But there's tons of laundromats out there, tons of laundromat owners out there. And, in fact, I have a podcast where I interview laundromat owners and they share, how they found success in this industry. And it always surprised me for such a simple business, right? There's so many ways to succeed in this industry. So it's pretty cool to hear their stories too.
Absolutely. Well, what's the name of this podcast? Where can we find that online, and where can we find you online?
Yeah. So laundromatresource.com is the platform. You can find everything through there. But the Laundromat Resource Podcast, it's what it's called. We're on YouTube. We're on all the social media stuff, Laundromat Resource. And then my email is Jordan, JORDAN, at laundromatresource.com.
All right, everyone, be sure to go check him out and say hello online. He certainly did not disappoint with today's show, and the show is at That Entrepreneur Show on all social media. I am at Vincent A. Lancy, so head to that YouTube channel head to the Vincent A. I'm juggling my words, the Vincent A. Lancy YouTube channel. You'll find That Entrepreneur Show podcast under there with some video clips with Jordan as he helps us wind down 2023. And with that, we are signing off from Cali all the way to Tampa. Thank you so much, Jordan.
Appreciate it.